Hello and welcome back. For our fifth chapter of the Director's Diary, we have traveled across the street from the Kunsthistorisches Museum to the Weltmuseum Wien. The Weltmuseum is a part of the 7 locations of the KHM Association, which comprises of all the collections from the various museums. As Director General of the KHM Association, what is your involvement in overseeing the other museums?
Well, as you mentioned before, the Weltmuseum is part of our museums group. And of course, it completes, I would say, the collections that we have in the other locations like the Kunsthistorisches Museum. And of course, I talk to the director of the Weltmuseum very often about the exhibitions they're doing, about their research program. And of course, we oversee their budget. But basically, I would say it's all about being in connection, being in communication. How can we best connect and put these wonderful collections into a dialogue with the collections of the Kunsthistorisches Museum?
After 3 years of reconstruction, the Weltmuseum Wien reopened in October 2017, presenting its new permanent collection with over 3,000 objects, revealing connections between Austrian cultures from around the world. And this also entails Austria's role within colonial structures. What approach do you have broaching such sensitive but indispensable subjects?
Well, as you mentioned, the collections, of course, of the Weltmuseum are historic collections, collected to a larger part by the dynasty of the Habsburgs. And of course, they represent Austrian history in the times of colonialism. And now the question is, how can we deal with the question of colonialism? How can we integrate the communities? How can we communicate with the communities and bring interesting questions in our research, in our exhibitions, and also, of course, the question how to deal with the colonial objects, them being part of our history, of our historic collections, but to find out, is this still the correct way to deal with them or not? And this makes this museum also so very interesting.
Recontextualizing historical representations has proven to be invaluable for productive cultural discussions, and exhibitions such as Looking Aloud in Schloss Ambras or projects like 𝑻𝒉𝒆 that were last year in the Kunsthistorisches Museum. They're just such great examples of gaining new perspectives from the artworks in our collection that are already there by looking at them through a current and also sometimes a critical lens. What other endeavors would you like to see in the future of the KHM?
Well, just as you mentioned, I would like to bring in more and permanent views and perspectives from the outside to our collections here in the Weltmuseum. Of course, also what do those collections, what do these objects mean to us nowadays? They come from a different use, from a different function. Very often they were used in a ceremonial way, and now they are museums objects. And of course, these are two different worlds of looking at objects. And I would very much like to see that we continue with these new perspectives on the objects, bringing in other voices from the outside, but also here from our audiences in Vienna, that the Weltmuseum becomes much more part of the museum scene, but also of our everyday discussions. Also maybe become part of politics, certainly become part of cultural diplomacy. I think that's very important, and I'm very happy to see that the team here in the Weltmuseum Wien is very engaged and is very active also in their outreach programs.
Yeah, and what are your own personal plans for the future? What do you want to do after your tenure has ended?
Well, of course, I will be still connected with the museum in an emotional way, of course. Yes, I've been working here for 35 years, so that's really my home away from home. And of course, I will miss everyone very much, but I'm also looking forward to a more private, personal future.
Yeah, hopefully a lot of rest and relaxation too, after 35 plus years. Well, yeah, I think as this video and this series is coming to an end, I would just like to say thank you so much for taking the time to talking to us and telling us about your time here and all the amazing stories and experiences you've had. Thank you so much for your dedication for the past 35 or 30 plus years you've dedicated to the arts. And yeah, I think the KHM museums and their employees, they wouldn't be where they are now without your innovative leadership and also compassionate leadership. That's also very important. And I think I speak for everyone when I say we will miss you.
Thank you.
So much.
I will miss you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.